you got to bank on, what do I know? All these Airbnb, if you're going to buy a property like this, you don't want to get burned. So what happened last year during the pandemic? People were trying to turn their Airbnbs into long-term rentals, and they're losing their ass every month.
Yeah.
Maybe they're still covering some of the nut, but they're losing it because they overpaid. So it's like, yeah, it's good when it's good, but like you got to have a backup plan. What's going on, Real Dealz podcast listeners? This is show 387. Man, 387, that's a lot. I have done a lot of shows, almost coming up on a year here, so pretty excited about that Tucker still hasn't kicked me off yet, so that's a good sign, hopefully. I hope anyway. But anyway, here's what's going on with me this week, guys. Gonna be kind of brief, trying to cut these intros down a little bit. I like to talk too much sometimes, but just trying to figure out the best rhythm for the show. Anyway, so a couple things. Today we talked to Tony, my sales manager, who has been with me for 6 months or so. Yeah, we've been talking for a little over a year, but we kind of go into some training for him. We go over some deal situations. We do some role playing. We have really just get his thought process on how to look at deals. And so it used to be a fly on the wall of how I think a little bit more and doing a training episode. So then this week, so we had, I have an intern that works for me. He's a college professor, extremely smart. He's early 30s, does a lot of courses and builds stuff out for colleges for like training purposes and teaches some classes, but he's been interning and working for me. So he's been posting on my Instagram stuff, helping me with content. So he came in yesterday and we actually decided to create a media company. The media company is called NuNu Media. And the backstory behind that was my idea. My son, Monty, is named after my grandpa, Mendel. So it's Monty Mendel. And his wife, who's still alive, she turned 91 this week. My grandpa was probably the most important person in my life, by far. My grandma, her name is Dee Dee, but Monty, I always called her NuNu. That was always her name. But Monty started calling her NuNu. And so I thought Dee Dee was probably not the best media company name, so I thought NuNu would be a good marketing company and just pay a little homage to her and just want to keep the people that are important to me in my memories and keep their legacy going on as long as possible. We have a couple companies named after my grandpa, and so anyway, hopefully we can do right by them and their name and their legacy. And my goal in life is if I could be half the man my grandpa was, I think I'll be doing okay. So I'm pretty excited about that. But we created that company with an intern, and this is why interning or helping people, like, he's done so much stuff for us for free, and we just created a company that gave him equity for like being able to do some courses or do some trainings, maybe write a book. He likes writing, and give him a ownership stake in that. So going and giving without asking to receive right away is a really, really powerful tool. And he's excited. He's been all in since day one. So very excited. Same with Isabel. She interned for me for a while. She still does. She's still doing some stuff, but she's got a job that's probably going to make 6 figures working for a real estate company, learning the whole ropes from a buddy of mine that just happened to be in the same area as her. And she's already tied up a couple deals. She's crushing it. He's grooming her to take over his, real estate business when he moves to a different area. It's just, a lot of opportunities come from just interning and helping people out. So making my life easier or making anybody that you want to know, making their life easier will provide opportunity. So I have so much stuff going on that I just get overwhelmed and stressed out. We've talked about it before, but we have the NuNu Media stuff, which is the content, the Instagram, the podcast, things like that, the C&E real estate development side where we're developing lots and doing apartments with some partners. My C&E multifamily stuff, we're buying apartments. We have our C&E single family where we're doing some fix and flips, and we got some wholesales going. And then I have the Call Magic call center. So I had my accountability call with one of my good friends yesterday. We do it every 2 weeks. And at the end of the call, basically came up with, he said I need to do Elliot Smith org chart and basically write down everything, every company's entities, every role that I do, and the employees that I have and what are their roles. And so I'm into just 2 of them, Call Magic and C&E Real Estate. And I've already got I haven't even finished it all the way, but I got 30 things that I am responsible for and just 2 out of the 5. So definitely trying to figure out, how do I get better organized? How do I stop missing as much stuff? How do I stop taking as much stress home with me, or anxiety or worry, because I'm not getting all this stuff done. So I have a hard time sometimes letting things go, and there's certain things that I'm really good at, and how do I continue to hone my skills and find a team or people to help me do things and help me be the best that I can be, and just only focus on really highly important tasks. So, but the good thing is everything's going really well. So like the call center is crushing. We actually have put what we call a SWAT team in place out of our new call center. So we have what that SWAT team entails is 3 callers, 1 leads manager, and 1 acquisitions guy. And we are literally 10 days into a campaign in Houston, and we've already locked up 3 contracts for a client. Then we're not selling this service, but we are buying and deals for clients at this point. So really excited about that. But anyway, this show, I think you guys are really going to like it. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. Hopefully you guys have had a great week. One more thing that I did. I shot like 45 TikTok, Instagram reel videos on Wednesday. My cousin came. I got the first couple of them done and broke them all down, but I think we shot 53 videos, but compressed into like 40 to 42 TikTok videos. It was so draining, but I think trying to be efficient and not like do these things every day and just time block and get these things knocked out so that I can just have content going out all the time is going to be highly effective. Cole, if you guys aren't following Cole Rue Johnson, he was on the show earlier with me. He is crushing it on TikTok and Instagram. He did this. I got the idea from him. He shot like 65 in one day. So he just crushed it, and he's just doing such a good job. They got a little mastermind group, Facebook group that they're doing, and these guys are killing it. So anyway, hope you guys just have a wonderful week. Summer's coming to an end. Market is slowing down, but I think there's so many opportunities. We're tying up way more deals right now. So this is the time to really start pushing, and just go after it and reach out to me. I talk to people all the time on Instagram, Facebook, Messenger. Reach out to me. I answer questions people all the time, and I'll just sometimes bring random people on the podcast to do trainings. And so you never know what you're going to get. I'm always open to helping people if I have time and talking to people. If you lead with something of value, don't just ask and say, I've had people say, hey, what should I do here? And it's just like, you're not doing anything other than just like wanting me to just do something for you without having any value. Usually when people say, hey, I love your show, I really liked you did this, I got some feedback for you, they leave with some feedback, then I'm just like, oh, let me help you and give you some feedback. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy the episode. I will chat with you later. What's going on, Real Dealz podcast listeners? I got a special guest this week. He's not a big name in real estate, but I think he's actually going to be better. His name's Anthony Bianco, and he is my sales manager, my sales guy that works on our team, helps with our building our systems, manages all the lead flow that comes in, follows up with everybody, and it helps hire and train people for underneath him. So we are going to do a quick intro of who Tony, I call him Tony, his name's Anthony, but I call him Tony, who he is. But then we're also going to do a training call because we've been talking, he's been asking me the last couple of days, hey, we need to do some training because we're getting into these bigger multifamily deals. We're getting into different kinds of things. And we're going to do a training. So I'm like, why don't we just record it and put it on the show so you can hear a live training of what I do in my business. So Tony, what's going on?
What's going on, Elliot?
Yeah. Thanks for hopping on. So yeah, hopefully don't feel shy in any way. I know you're not, but like this is just, worst case, we don't have to keep it recording and put it out there. So worst case, we got some good training, hopefully. Yeah. So, all right, man, who are you? How old are you? Where do you live? How did you start working for me?
Okay, so one day I was listening to a Bigger Pockets podcast, which I frequently do in the mornings. And I heard your first podcast, and then you were on Bigger Pockets again, I heard, and your story resonated with me because I've been through similar struggles. And then you mentioned doing something with Call Magic and a lead situation, and at the time, that's what I was doing too. And I was under a guy, Joe, and basically just reached out to you and said, hey, Elliot, I know this is kind of out of the blue, but I'm in the lead center business as well, and was trying to make a connection and just kind of went from there. And you took the call and we hopped on. It was just like a casual meeting. And at the time, I really didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden, maybe like 6 to 8 months later,
not even that long, because this was August. This was right after we had our my podcast with Christy, I think. And so it was August last year.
August of last year, that's it?
Yeah, I know. Feels like we've been together forever.
Yeah. And then and from there, we just kind of like figured out where I could fit with helping you out and where you could fit with helping me out. And then we just kind of...
Yeah, because you were looking to learn to real estate, and I needed somebody because at the time I was focused on the call center, doing a bunch of other stuff, and didn't have time to like go through all my leads, and I had a bunch of leads. And so I was like, hey, why don't we just do this? I'll pay you $1,500 a deal. You can be my lead reviver specialist, and then I'll coach you an hour a week. And I've done this with a couple guys that add value to me, and I'll give you an hour or two a week, help teach you real estate. And then all of a sudden you decided you were going to move from New Jersey to Florida, and you're like, hey, what if I did this more on a, part-time, full-time basis? And so, yeah, that was back, February?
Back in February, and now here I am.
Yeah, so.
I'm like your second child.
Yeah, seriously. Well, and then you met Monty, we hung out, and so, yeah, awesome. So what do you kind of do on a day-to-day basis currently? Why don't you talk a little bit about that, maybe, and so people can understand, like, what you do as, like, the sales manager role and what you've been doing the last 6 months.
Okay. Yeah. For right now, it's been like organizing your mess of your existence inside of a computer, basically. Trying to get everything, all of his leads that he's been talking to for the past, I don't even know how many years, everything really organized. So, not just Elliot can work through them, maybe other people could work through them, or have someone like myself come into a system and work through it. So right now, what I do, we just switched over to a new CRM. So help find that CRM, put the systems and processes in place to do that. And really my main focus is to talk to basically everyone in that system and try to see where I can find deals and opportunities for us to make some money. Awesome.
So you talk a little bit about organizing, because when you came in, the one thing, we had decent systems, but then I started running a gun and doing other things, and I'm, really bad about putting information in the systems, doing my tasks, follow up. If I'm busy or have something else better to do, I push it off. I usually just work the low hanging fruit. So there's a lot of leads in there. What would you say the hardest part about working for somebody like me or myself in general has been coming into the sales role and basically me dumping a pile of all this stuff on you and saying, hey, please fix it?
The hardest thing about that is, I guess, the perception of it is if it's going to be hard or if it's just going to be a challenge that you take on. And for me, it's like, oh, cool, look, I was grateful to have this, a huge system full of leads. Like, wow, okay, this is like a gold mine just waiting to be tapped, but, you're not really working it and going through it, so you don't have an idea of how these leads are converting. For me, it was like I could see the mess, and I was like, all right, let me just organize this and get this to a place where, anyone could look in here and have it make sense to them, if they were working it from a sales perspective.
Yeah.
So for me, I wouldn't say it was tough at all. It was like more of a less like, hey, what can I do and what can I do inside here, and where should I put my time to make this the most efficient that I possibly can.
Yeah, because you went on like a 2-month where you were cleaning, trying to fix our Podio, which Podio is really good in a lot of ways, but just for our team, it just didn't seem to make sense anymore. And we had spent decent money building out this Podio. And you went on like a search to go find a CRM, a better CRM. You were looking at like Left Main, Salesforce, all these different ones. And then I had a buddy, Danny Johnson, that built this Forefront. And we got on and we ended up going with that one. What was the reason you think you went to that one besides and making us better? And like talk about like the amount of time you had to spend on building out your Podio or building out the Podio to make it more organized.
Yeah, it's just like the problem of a CRM. It shouldn't be like a car or something where you have to get into the driver's seat and someone has to, it should be like a Tesla where you can get in the car and it can just drive itself at some point. Like do all the hard stuff where you can just sit there and do other things. Where Podio is like a car, it's like, hey, you got to get in that thing. It's like a manual. You got to have a stick shift. You got to have 2 arms to operate it. It's very intensive from a labor perspective, like someone's got to be in there doing stuff constantly. And then, yeah, you can.
And it's hard to use, right? You got to train somebody. Like, you got to train somebody a week on how to use Podio.
Yeah, you can't just say, hey, come into my Podio and do stuff. It's like, okay, I'm in Podio. What the hell is going on with this thing? How do I work this? What's going on? It's too all over the place. Mm-hmm. And switching to something like Forefront, it's just like the simplicity, the genius is in the simplicity, because it makes it really easy to use. It's very visual, and it's like, it just makes sense. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're gonna like want to see your pipeline, and you should just be able to look at it, and there's this, and this. You know, these are the hot leads. These are the ones that are probably gonna be tire kickers, and hey, these are the ones that are, you know, gotta go and follow up or something. Or these are our deals for this month. It should be very easy, and all the heavy lifting should be done by the system.
Gotcha. So August, you get that system all basically switched over. How many? Will we get three deals in August?
Yeah, pop 3 deals right away.
Yeah. So now the reason I didn't do it, you know, is I had so many other things going that it was good enough, right? And I think that's a lot of, you know, business owners, they get in there, well, this employee is good enough, or this is good enough right now. I just don't have the time to fix it. And so what did I tell you? I said, I don't care what it costs in your time, just freaking fix it. I don't care if we're buying any deals. I don't care if we're doing anything. Just go make this better so we can build a better foundation. And I think that was the right choice at the end of the day.
Yeah, we could have tried to make Podio work, but then it's always gonna need that. It's like it needs some serious love and attention every single day, constantly, just to keep it flowing right. And then you still can't track your metrics right.
Yep.
And that's the most important thing.
Cool. All right. So switching gears. Now now you got the CRM stuff all figured out. Now you're calling people. Tell a little bit what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
All right, now it's kind of switched where I was like, I'm still trying to get tons of calls in because I want to talk to as many people as possible and refine my skill at talking to people, communicating better. I tend to ramble, as Elliot knows. So trying to just get people on the phone now is basically my sole focus, where I can just put things into the system. It's automated, follow-up is automated. All these processes that you have to do manually are already done for you. So for me, right now, it's call as many people as possible, go after very hot prospects or leads that we've identified as, well, you know, these might be really good leads. They're stacked with multiple motivations. So let me dive deeper into these, take some time on them, and then go after them. So for day-to-day right now, it's going after trying to talk to as many people as I possibly can and doing research on deals that we think are going to pop soon.
Gotcha.
That's basically what I go through now.
All right. So into the thought process. So right now we're doing single family wholesale, basically. We've moved in. Most people, if you've been listening to the show, know we're moving into a lot more development and multifamily deals, which is totally different in the grand scheme of things. I mean, it's not totally different, but it's different, right? It's just a different type of person you're dealing with. And so the one thing that Tony does really, really, really well is he gets people on the phone. And he is way better at that than I am. So for instance, we were on a call. We were calling some sellers back a couple weeks ago doing some training. And I called this guy and I was going to leave a message. I did leave a message. And he's like, no, hang up. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, call him again. And he's like, I call people 3 times to get them on the phone in a row, because if they see your phone number, they don't recognize it the first time, they're definitely not going to answer most of the time. Second time, they're like, what is this? This might be important. Third time, they're going to be like, I need to know who the hell this is. And I just don't have that in me to do that because I don't want to get yelled at or people to like bug me. So you're like, call them again, you know, just keep calling them. And I'm like, dude, I just don't have that. I don't know what it is, but it's hard for me. I would cold call people all the time. But I try to get them on the phone, or I follow up with them the next day, or, you know, a couple of days later, just or I go door knock them, right? That's how I would, you know, get them if I really want to chase them down. So anyway, you have done really, really good at that. And I've talked about this deal before. We had the deal on 43rd that we bought that was a pre-foreclosure that we knew it had been vacant for like 7 years. Based on our lead that came in. And I said, Tony, go get a hold of this guy. And we pulled some information on it. And you got a hold of the guy. And you're like, the guy said that they doesn't own it anymore. He lost it in the bankruptcy or whatever. It's been vacant for like 7 years. And I'm like, so I dove into it. You know, you didn't you took it at face value, which most people did, and because you just don't know, which is where we're a good team. And so I'm like, no, let me look into this. Found out that he did still own it, right? That's what it was. The bank didn't own it. So I was like, no, call him back, get him on the phone again, and three-way me in. So that's exactly what you did. You called him, got him back on the phone. Hey, did you just need to talk to my boss, Elliot, for a minute and get on a three-way call? And then we did that three-way call and ended up locking up the deal. That deal's looking really, really good right about now. But after we closed the deal, I had asked the seller, I'm like, how many people have called you or talked to you about this property? He said over 200 and over 13 or 14 since it went to pre-foreclosure like a month or so before that. And he told people, everybody the same thing, but getting them on the phone and getting to build instant rapport, that is your strongest suit that you have. Now, where we need to work is switching gears and understanding the type of sellers that we're dealing with. And you made a comment earlier about rambling on too much, which I do too sometimes. But since you're so good at rapport building, that's where your focus is, instead of understanding like where do we lead these people through the call. So let's dive into that. Seller, start talking to a seller. How long are you probably staying on the phone for with most sellers on average?
It depends, because there's a few types of calls, and I feel like
you ask the questions that you need help for, so we'll go through that.
All right, for me, it's never the first or second call. Those calls I can bang out quick. I know what I need to get out of them, and they're to the point. It's when I have to make an offer. It's an offer call.
Okay.
I don't even know how to open an offer call. I know I should probably talk for something for a few minutes in the beginning, but how do you direct that? You can't just be like, okay, hey, listen, the offer's $250. Is it good or no? You can't jump right into it. So how do you open those calls up, and what's the process behind those? Because I'm good with the when they call in on direct mail or having a just
let's get to the offer here in a minute. But how long are you talking to them when they call in off direct mail? Because you just had this call. We just had this conversation. You're getting more information from the guy, and you're on the call for like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah. Well, the multifamily guys,
that's different, but okay,
I was just like, woo! Go excited and giddy like a little girl.
Yeah.
So
for reference, it was like a 30.
Don't count it.
Yeah. For reference, it was like we were mailing for multifamily. A lead came in. The guy had a house or property in Houston that was 255 units, 32 million. I'd probably get a little nervous too, especially because you don't understand multifamily. You don't know what questions to ask. So we'll throw that one to the side for right now. So, all right. So, okay. So you got the rapport building. You're setting appointments with people. And basically Tony lives in Fort Lauderdale. So very similar to what I used to do for my partner Corey in Vancouver. When people would call in, I would just set the appointment for Corey or find out when a good time for Corey to go on the appointment was. Corey would go walk the house. If he had really good rapport, he'd make an offer and try to tie it up or get an offer going there. If most of the time though, it's going to kick back to me is what it would kick back. And then I would negotiate and make the offer and play kind of like that middleman kind of deal. And so Tony is doing that now for Corey and myself. So, okay. So let's just take, for example, let's pick a deal. Let's pick the one we're working on, let's do the 43rd one, and we'll take that as an example. Okay. So yeah, but let's just use that deal for an example. Okay. Just don't worry about the guy who it was. All right. So I go walk the property and I say you need to be at 215. You've already built this decent rapport. I haven't even met, at this point I hadn't met the seller. And so, cause he was out of town. So you're wondering how you open up to make the offer, right? Okay. So here's how we're going to do it. You're going to be the seller. You're going to be John. Okay. Hey, John, how's it going?
Hey, Elliot. It's going good.
Good. Good. Thanks. Hey, awesome. Hey, we were able to go get in that property, walk around, and had a good look at that. So thanks for letting us do that. I appreciate it. So anyway, have you been back there recently, or have you been inside? Let's say it's got a tenant. Have you seen inside the property with the tenant lately, or when was the last time you were there?
No, I haven't been in there for probably since the tenant moved in a few years ago. So no.
Okay, cool. Have they been a good tenant? Have they paid their rent, or how have they been?
They seem fine and pay their rent, but at this point, it's like, all right, I'm ready to get rid of this.
Cool.
This property, yeah.
Do you know they had some dogs there?
I don't know. Do I?
I mean,
I didn't know that.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So Definitely, they haven't been taking the best care of this place. So when we talked, you had said that it probably needed a new roof. It may need some windows, maybe some like updating on a little bit of updating on the inside, which wasn't usually that's our normal rehab. That's not going to cost us very much money. So at this point, when I got in there, they had done a lot of damage to it. So the kitchen was pretty messed up. It definitely did need a new roof badly. The concern I have there on the roof is that since it hasn't been replaced for so long, that we're gonna have to rip it off and have a lot of plywood issues there, and it's gonna be quite a bit more expensive. Also, there's some holes in the walls. The bathrooms are kind of bad. The flooring definitely has got issues. You got baseboard heat, and the AC seems to be out. When was the last time you had the AC replaced or checked up on? Have you had any issues with it?
No, I mean, I haven't had any issues at all right now, but I mean, like, how much can all this possibly cost? You're talking about what, paint, flooring, a little bathroom work, like, what is that, 10, 20 grand?
Yeah, it used to be, but now with inflation and everything, so prices have been going up a lot. And, we do a lot of these ranch rehabs. Usually we're coming in on this. I'm like, this is going to be a full remodel, coming in right around $60,000. So it's kind of what it's costing us. That's with our crews coming in, in-house crews.
60,000. This place is 1,300 square feet.
Yeah, it's pretty. Your roof's probably 9 grand, maybe 12 grand at top. Kitchen's probably 8, 10 grand. Bathrooms are going to be probably 3, 4 grand each. Carpet, flooring, you're going to be another 5 grand. You're going to probably have trim, doors and trim. Those are a couple grand. I mean, it all adds up at the end of the day, and inflation not doing us any favors on this cost. And that's like, we've had them come in, houses that look like this. We're not going to crawl space, but we've had them cost us $90,000. And so, I'm kind of being halfway reasonable and taking a lot of risk on, that there could be a lot more issues going on. So, but what were you kind of wanting for this property? I know you kind of thrown out before a slight range of like, you wanted kind of 300. Is that kind of what you're still thinking, or?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I want. I want 300 for this thing.
Gotcha. All right, so we can't get there, and so I don't want to waste your time or my time. I mean, do you have room on that? I mean,
well, I don't know. Like, what if I just? I mean, the market's crazy right now. There's tons of the house down the block was just they put it on the market, was on in 2 days.
Yeah, but what did that house look like? And so, and you're not living in it, and you're gonna have to kick. Right now we're offering to buy it with the tenants in there, and we'll deal with it. But you're gonna have to kick the tenants out. You're gonna have to go do all this work yourself. It's gonna be a lot more. So, I mean, let's just run through the numbers really quick, to tell you how I just look at these things. So, if that property sells probably for, let's say, $350 fixed up, if it's all fixed up, dialed in, right? Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah. Okay,
$350. So we're on the same ballpark. So if I'm at $350. And it's going to cost us about 8% to sell it. So I'm going to times it by 0.8, 0.92. So we're going to get where we're at. So that gives us down to $322,000. That's what's going to cost me. It's going to cost me roughly $28,000 to sell this because we still use an agent. All those things is how we market it. And then there's a lot of times these entry-level house buyers, they're going to want, closing costs and things like that. So if I'm in this, it's going to cost me 60. I'm down to 262, and I got to make a profit. I mean, I got guys to pay for. I got, at the end of the day, I still got to feed my family. So would you agree that I got to make a profit?
Yeah. If you buy it.
Yeah. So anyway, let's just say a modest profit for 30,000, which again, that's not all profit. I got to pay 10 to taxes. I got to pay 10 for marketing just to talk to you. So that gets me down to 232, and that's with no holding costs, taxes, and everything while I'm holding it. I got to be in the 220 to 235 range is really where I got to be.
Shit. I don't know. For me, it's like, I feel like this market's so crazy, and if I just list it, who knows what I'll get if I, throw it on there, and just what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I mean, definitely could. You're going to have to go with cash buyer. You got to pay realtor, and that's fine. I mean, totally understand. If that's what you want to do, then really no skin off our back. I don't need to buy it. So if that's what you think is best, then we can totally go that direction.
So what if you guys did come in and buy this? You're saying I wouldn't have to do anything with the tenants, and I would just basically sign a paper and it would be done, and I'll guarantee 230 in my pocket. Yeah.
So if we're, I haven't given you exactly. I got to confirm with Corey. Corey went over there. So we're in that 225 to 232 range. So I can confirm with him, you do have some seller closing costs. It's like 2.5% is what it's going to cost you. So you're probably going to be right around the 220 to 225 in your pocket. We would buy with the tenants in there. We would like you to give them notice. And we can close it, in 30 days. No problem. But that's kind of roughly where you're going to be at.
And then what if I just what if I kept it and got the tenants out myself, and then what if I got a crew in there, try to do some work? I mean, it doesn't seem possible.
No, totally, yeah. And if that's the best fit for you, totally. I'll give you some of our connections that we have, guys that we know that do this stuff. You'll probably pay quite a bit more than what we'll pay because we have in-house contractors. But if you think that's the best fit for you and you have the time, I totally understand.
Yeah, it just seems like $60,000. If you have your own in-house contractors, that would be a lot for a small little ranch.
Yeah, until you go to Lowe's and look at the cost of materials. It's expensive. I can't change the cost. Trust me, I'd love to do it for less because we make a lot more money, but at the end of the day, we can't.
So it looks like the only option here is either do a whole bunch of work myself or give it to you.
Yeah, and really you just got to ask yourself the question, like, do you want the most amount of money or do you want to be done? And really, if you want the most amount of money, then we're not the best fit. You should probably, evict the tenants, go fix it up, and then try to sell it on the open market. But if you're you say, yeah, maybe you can make 10 or 20 more, because even if you went out there and did it and you got 350, you're still going to pay the same, if not more than I am. And so if I'm, so maybe you're netting 260, 270. So maybe at the most, at the end of the day, is it worth the risk to go that much more? And if it is, totally, by all means, go for it. I'll be your biggest cheerleader.
Well, so what are you thinking? Maybe what if you guys can do can you guys do 260 on this?
We couldn't get 260. I know that. I can touch base with Corey and see where we come in, but we're probably not going to be much more than kind of where I was at.
Okay. Well, I would love to think about it. I know it's kind of tough, but I do want to get the most I can out of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to just let it go for that much less. Like take a $100,000 hit or more, $120,000 hit.
Well, you're not really taking the $120,000 hit because you still got to go fix it, right? And at the end of the day, the selling costs are going to be the same with me or without, you do it on your own. You're going to have $60,000 in rehab. We do this for a living. I do 30 of these a year. So if we're not paying more than anybody else, we've got the best deal there. So really you're maybe missing out on 20 to 40 at most. And so that's really the question you got to ask yourself. But, I totally understand. Again, I don't want to waste your time or mine. Why don't you just touch base with your wife and then we can touch base tomorrow or the next day and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
So cool. All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Elliot.
So really the thought process is on that call is because you were playing, maybe a little bit more of a difficult seller in that sense.
Of course. There's no such thing as an easy seller.
Yeah, there is. There is, but for the most part, really, everybody knows the market's hot right now, so you can't combat that. Where I win is I know that house is probably worth $370. So John and I agreed that house is probably worth $350, but that's my conservative estimate. I can buy that. I think it's probably in my back of my head. I think it's worth more, but let's go off my conservative estimate, right? So at that point, 60,000 is probably where it's at, but let's say in my gut, I probably thought it was a 50,000 rehab. So if I say I'm at 370 is where I think I really can sell that property times 0.925, that's my cost or 7.5%. We're down to 342. And then let's just say it's really a 55 rehab, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, now I'm down to 287. And if I really want to make 40 is kind of where we always want to be. So that's how we balance those in there. So that puts me down to 247. So I do have room, right? I've teed them up though, in the sense of I need to be here. And so then I can come up if need be.
Wow.
So, but I've teed him up and anchored him that I need to be at 225 to 232. And so if I come to 235, he's winning, right? But and so that's kind of
in his mind he's winning.
In his mind he's winning, right? And so, but that deal's a home run at 235 probably,
Gotcha.
right? Because it is an easy fix. I mean, ranches are they're expensive, but they're pretty easy fix. So,
yeah.
But also there's two different schools of thought. There's one school of thought that just really drives home think about where you're going to be after you sell this house because it's created this pain point, right? And really try to drive this pain point. This one, the way we kind of went about this pain point rental hasn't really been a pain point for him other than he just needs cash. He wants to sell it and be done with it. The tenants don't bug him, but they're trashing the property. He just wants to be done and over with it, right? So, but it hasn't been a pain point in there. So I don't have a pain point to really drive. Motivation is I want to sell this and get some money out of it, go buy whatever I want to buy, or I inherited it or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't like driving home pain points and like picture your life, afterwards. And so mine always goes from the standpoint of like, you have two options. Maybe you have three, let's call it two options. Option one is you go do all this work and fix it up yourself and get rid of the tenants and put all the money in there and you make the most amount of money out there. Okay, that's option one. Great. Option two is you sell it to us and you make some less money, but it's easy. It's done with that. So I just inform them of both options and let them make the choice. Like I always have a saying, if it's a good deal today, it's be a good deal tomorrow. I don't want to I'm not trying to lock them up right there on the spot over the phone. I go back and forth all the time. And I always use my partner, Corey, or whatever, as a, reason. I got to check with Corey. He's the one that walked it. I just didn't really have a good peek. So I just need to make sure. I don't know if we can get there, though, just after talking to him. But let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can get us up a little bit and go from there. So I'm an advocate for them. So my position, especially in your position, you're advocating almost for them in some sense. And I'm almost kind of not the bad guy, but I'm the one that, writes the check. So you're like, man, let me see if I can do that. I really hope, let me see if I can get it up. Maybe, I think I might be able to get Elliot go a little bit more, but let's just see where he said the numbers were. So that's kind of how I've always approached those, and it's worked really, really well. Now, the difference is I don't make offers on properties unless I know we're semi-close. I would have liked that guy to be closer to 260, 280 on his range probably than a 300. But even at that one at 300, and now if he was at 350, we would never wasted our time. We'd never gone on the appointment. But 300, let's go take a look at it, take a peek. There might be some money there. But I try to get them also to get down, some, and that's why I give them a range and never commit to anything. That's the one key I think that maybe hopefully you heard from there is I'm never committing to one thing, right? Everything's open-ended because at the end of the day, most of the time the seller's like, can you do 235, at that point? And let me just touch base with Corey, see if I can do that. Yeah, I think we can do that. They're the ones telling me the offer. I'm never coming up to a spot of like, here, 225, 250, because you lose control and power at that point, in my opinion. If I give them, I'll pay you X, unless you're all the way down towards the end, but I pay you X, they might, I like that, but then they're going to try to get a little bit more. They're going to try to if they're scraping and clawing to get you to come up, then it anchors them better. And then in their mind, if they got a good deal, they got the most out of you can. But if I give them a solid price, then all of a sudden they think that they came to my price.
What do you do if they say, yeah, listen, I'll take 235?
Yeah. I'd still probably say, okay, let me touch base with Corey. Because time solves everything, right? Then there's a lot of guys that will say, yeah, let's lock this up right now. I'll send you over a DocuSign. But what we've found is those sellers just tend to be more difficult because they all of a sudden, if you go too quick, they feel like they left money on the table, right? So if I make them think that we really had to stretch it in order to get to where they're at, then they don't think they left money on the table. My sellers all love me, and it goes really smooth through closing. Make sense?
Yeah.
So like you're always like, even when you're making the offer, you are never committing to anything. Like as a sales guy or as me is I'm never committing. It's always because they're never going to come to my 220 number, 225, my lowest number ever. So if they, so if I'm at 225 to 232, even if they said I'd probably be 232, okay, that's just the top of end of our range. Let me just touch base with my partner and make sure that's really kind of where, we're okay with that. I think we should be, but let me just touch base with them and see where it's at. Can I give you a call back here in a little bit? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it actually from a perspective of the place I got over here. that the guy thinks he can get 550 for it. I mean, can he? Maybe. It's pretty good inside, but I really want it. But I don't. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I want to range it, but where do I range? Do I start at 485 to 510? If it's a higher price property, do I start?
Yeah.
There?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, the problem is if he's in a 550 range, you're never going to get him at probably under 5.
But he owns it free and clear. He inherited it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
You can be in the 4s, but I'm saying it's probably never going to end up. It's probably going to be really hard to end up in the 4s.
Like, even if his price is 550, let's say, okay, that's what he thinks he can get retail. Okay, back out commissions and closing costs, right? So that kind of helps get a little bit closer. And explain that to him that way, right? And I hate to explain because when you explain, you lose, right?
No, I explain shit all the time. I just walk him through it, like I did with you on that thing. Like, okay, so all right, Mr. Seller, you got 550. So there's gonna be about 7%. I don't know if you guys have excise tax in Florida.
No.
So let's just say
0.91% usually is.
Yeah, so let's say a point. We have agent connections, so let's say 0.91. Okay, so you're 500. So right there, agent's commission, you're gonna be at 500 right there. It doesn't need a ton of work, but I'm still probably gonna put like 30 into it just to fix it. Get it, up to snuff. And so I need to be. That gets me down to 470, right? And so then I got to make a little bit of money or whatever, or I'm gonna live there. I think you want to live there, right?
Yeah,
but
it's got to make sense.
Yeah, it's got to make sense. So I'm gonna probably live in here, but give me a little bit of buffer. I need to make like 20 at least on the buffer. I probably need to be at like, let's say 450 to 4. I probably need to be at like 4. So when I find my number, I need to go below it and I need to go above it, right? And so I probably need to be like 440 to 460. Is that doable or a thought process there? But I mean, but you also said that you think it's worth 650, right?
As is, it's probably worth at least 625. A house that's smaller than it in similar conditions just sold for 600.
Okay, so let's say we're 625. So we do those numbers again now because I thought it was worth 350.
And that's as is.
So yeah, so times 0.92. So 575. Let's say, okay, I'm gonna put like 30 grand into it. I need to make a little bit of money, maybe like 30 grand, or whatever. And I got some holding costs, maybe like 15K for holding costs. You probably need to be like 500. If you bought 500, it'd be all right. Let's say 485, like you said, 485 to 510. So yeah, 485 to 510 anchor right there. It's fine. The difference, like with you, is, guys, I'm not factoring in like hard money costs and things like that because I don't use hard money. And so most of everything is our own capital. And
I wouldn't be using hard money.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you just go straight to a bank if it doesn't need any work?
I wouldn't tell him I would.
No. You just tell him. Just tell him you're financing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just be like, look, John. If I had to come in like all cash and close it, like I'm gonna have to go get a loan for this, anyway, because I'm not sitting on $500,000 in cash. But I'm gonna have to go get a loan. It's gonna be really expensive. But so if that was the case, if you wanted to close super quick, I need to be like 465. But if you'll let me go, just run this through a loan for buying the house, I can be like at 495. But you just gotta give me like 60 days to close this. We bought deals that way, that we kept as rentals. We went straight to Freddie and Fannie financing. So
it's a really good place.
Yeah, so it's just like just go that route. He's obviously not hurting that he needs to sell it because he hasn't fire sold it. So it's like 2 months doesn't matter. He just wants to get the most amount of money. So then you can go that route there.
And I was kicking around this idea, but what's your take on it? Because this is why I'm going to call him again, but what's his need to have all that money in his pocket right away? Would he do a seller finance deal on it where he would carry,
No, don't do seller finance with this guy. Not on your first deal.
No, why not?
Just go get a loan. You're going to go buy it and live in there. You don't need to. Just go, like, you have the money. You have the guys have the income to do this deal. So, like, just go do it. Just go buy it and just go straight to a Freddie loan. So you lock it. Because the thing is, you got to live in there. If you say you're going to keep it as a rental, you need to live in there for you got to have the loan for a year, right? So technically, is what they say. It just makes more sense to just do it. You just go straight to your finance because it's going to cost you so much more money paying him this, and then you have to go still do the loan anyway. Why? Just go. You don't need the money right now, right away. Let's go straight to a loan.
So you don't think there's a benefit in doing seller finance where it's like, since he's carrying,
not unless he's like a 4%, 5% loan, like unless you did like a 5% interest only loan.
What if he did no interest? Because he doesn't need any interest.
Yeah, but why would somebody lock up $500,000, stick it with no interest, unless you're gonna. The only way that deal makes sense is if you're gonna pay him like $650 and no interest. So like these deals all work like your deals, your term, your price, my terms, or my price, your terms, right? So there's no incentive for him to sell it to you at 500 when he can sell it on the open market and then carry the note for 0 interest. Like that's stupid. Nobody like. I'm sure there's people that have done it, but like at this point, it doesn't matter. That not a seller's market, that doesn't happen. In buyer's market, sure, that might happen, right? But usually that's like, hey, I'll pay you $650, and I go, $1,000 payments every month and 0 interest, balloons in 7 years, right? So yeah, 7 years that probably should be worth more, so you should be fine. But what you could do is be like, or you can go 500, at like a 6%. I've done interest only loans. Like say, I'll give you a 6% interest only loan at at 500,000. You have to put some money down. So let's say you put $50,000. Yeah. So 450 times 0.06, it's $27,000 a year divided by 12. You're $2,250 a month, interest payments, and you're only making interest payments, and it's like a 3-year min, 7-year, term deal, and then you can refi or whatever. So, at the end of the day, he makes, 27 times 3, let's say an extra $81,000.
Is there any benefits for the seller for tax purposes of doing a seller finance versus just selling it outright?
Not since he inherited it, no. It's actually probably better. It's probably better for him to actually just sell it outright.
Cash out.
Yeah. Okay. Because you get the step up basis, unless his parent who he inherited it from had a ton of money, but his tax basis starts when they died, and whenever that, I don't know when that was.
Not too long ago.
Yeah, so there not much taxes on that.
The crazy thing is the house is tax assessed at like $220, but market value for
it's all market value. It doesn't matter what tax assessed is. It's the market value.
I know. I'm saying the tax payment you make on it is assessed at a value of $220 right now. So you pay like no taxes.
Yeah.
Once I buy it though, then it jumps up to like $9,000 for the year. Crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, but even if you buy it on a carrier, it's still gonna jump up because there's still a purchase price. You can't buy it for two.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't avoid it. If he sells it, you can't avoid that.
Can't avoid it.
So yeah, don't try to outsmart the system because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, unless you bought, the only way that works is if you bought it on owner option. Your owner carry like an option, purchase it like a rent to own deal kind of deal option.
It's like a land. What about a land contract?
Dude, you're getting things way over your skis that just doesn't make sense. Like literally, just this is one that you just need to go buy the property, go get a loan, either buy it with hard money, which is second option. Just go get your loan, just go fucking buy the property.
My thoughts on this too is like even if it makes no cash flow or costs me like $50 a month to own it, even if I rent it out or something, then I feel like controlling this type of asset in this market would probably be a good move.
Yeah, no, that's stupid too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Because
yeah. Oh yeah. Right now it is.
It's like crazy. Like, I'm already buying it with equity in it.
Yeah. You're buying it with equity in it, but you're also, you can't bank on appreciation because we can go to war tomorrow and the world falls apart. Like look what happened last year with COVID. Yeah, we've had huge run-ups, but Florida, it's just, you can't bank on appreciation. The only thing you can bank up now, if you're in like a different, that's like a San Francisco or like California market where it's just an appreciation market, not a cash flow market, sure, I understand. But you're buying. What's that?
This is South Florida. It's right by the beach. It's
I get that, but it's still in Florida. There's cash flow, right? And so, but you're also buying You're buying an asset in Florida that's probably a lot more than the median house price point. It's not. That's not the first deal that you go buy and you don't go in there with any cash flow.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? You just can't do it. Because like, say all of a sudden the market crashes or whatever, you can't get anybody to rent there, which did happen just 12 years ago, right? And you can't get it rented or whatever, then you're stuck with a $3,000 a month mortgage payment.
All right, and yeah, for a long-term rental, but this is also an Airbnb market.
I agree, and I still think it works. But there's also a thousand other people that are thinking that their house is the best thing for Airbnb. What happens when all of a sudden people stop traveling, like during a pandemic, right? And all of a sudden, what happens to the Airbnbs, the rents? they compress, right? Because supply and demand, right? So again, you don't bank on it being great like that. You got to bank on, what do I know? All these Airbnb, if you're going to buy a property like this, you don't want to get burned. So what happened last year during the pandemic? People were trying to turn their Airbnbs into long-term rentals, and they're losing their ass every month.
Yeah.
Maybe they're still covering some of the nut, but they're losing it because they overpaid. So it's like, yeah, it's good when it's good, but like you got to have a backup plan.
All right. So run numbers in every scenario and see if it makes sense. If it does, then maybe that's
if it rents and maybe you cash flow a couple $100 for it, and it cash flows as a long-term rental, sure, then that makes sense, because Airbnb should crush it, but then as soon as you start doing that, you doing the Airbnb, what you do is you take your money that you've made, you start doing really well, and you take that and you put enough money in a checking account or savings account where you fund the payments for the next 12 months to cover your downside.
Emergency fund,
you're covering an emergency fund. So, and that's on top of your CapEx repairs and all those things.
Yes. So
you're just gonna be way more safe.
Yeah.
So, make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Possible.
All right. I think that's enough for one day.
Yeah. Should we? Is there a way to do a mock where I give you a situation and then I try to make an offer?
You can, just not right now, because I gotta get going. All right, I think that's enough for today. Do you have any other quick questions before we get off? No? All right.
Not really, no.
All right, guys. Let me know on Instagram or in the reviews if you guys like this episode. Maybe we can get Tony back on and do more stuff. You guys have listened. If you've been listening to the show for the last while, you've heard some of his seller calls, and I've critiqued him and things like that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we will catch you next time.